Purdue, Arizona. I want to talk about Zach Edey first and foremost, but I feel like I do that every time. And I feel like Purdue has a big three. And when all three of the big three are going and they're clicking, I don't know if there's a single team in the nation that can stop Braden Smith, Fletcher Loyer, Zach Edey when they're clicking like this. Russ, I'll give you the floor first. What were your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, we talked about it before we came on. It's kind of like, okay, what now? What do you got for Purdue now? What excuse do you have for, why we're winning or how you're going to beat us or what you're going to do? Like you said, Arizona fans were pretty chatty last week talking about, oh, he hasn't faced a guy like Ballo, and man, look at all these weapons we have. And we talked about on Boiler Express last week how Edey's faced the same stuff when he played Kofi for the first time, right? Everybody's like, Kofi was the big guy in Illinois. He was a big dude, the first guy that really could go toe-to-toe, or they thought could go toe-to-toe with Edey. And everybody was talking about how is Edey going to handle it, how they're going to handle this, how's Purdue going to figure this out. And Edey, after the game, he was like, look, everybody wanted to talk about how Purdue was going to handle Kofi, how I was going to handle Kofi, but nobody wanted to talk about how were they going to handle us, right? Purdue had 4 guys averaging double figures, right? Lance Jones averages double figures along with those big 3, right? And, Painter talks about it over and over again that Edey has not faced anything that he hasn't seen before now at this point in his career, right? You want to double him up from up top. You want to double him from his left shoulder, from his right shoulder. You want to let him eat. You want to play physical with him, like whatever you want to do. Like he's seen it before. So, and Fletch and Braden are now second-year guards, right? They're much more consistent. They've also seen even more in the Big Ten. They've seen more nationally. And, the fouls was the big thing, right? Like one of the crazy statements I heard last week from a guy on this show, you'll have to watch it to hear what was said last week, was look at the way that the fouls aren't balanced. Look at how many fouls are called on Purdue and how many fouls are, well, what are we supposed to balance? Are we supposed to balance if one coach gets a tech, is the other coach supposed to get a tech? Like if it's a foul, it's a foul, right? Like look at out of bounds calls. We'll talk about a big one in the IU game. Like if an out of bounds call goes for one team, the next play, you call it the other way. Like, no, you call it the way that the game's actually being played, right? Like Alabama wanted to complain about fouls too, but they shot over 70% of their shots from behind the 3-point line. How are you going to get Edey in foul trouble if you're not challenging him? And even in this game, there was fouls called on Edey where he was like straight up in the air, didn't even move, and they still called a foul on him. Like that's how Edey plays defense. Like if you watch Purdue play, he's not really a lockdown defender down low, right? He still gets guys that have beautiful turnaround layups and go right over the top of him, and they're like, oh, he went over the top of him. I can't believe it. Well, Edey's not trying to get fouls. Like he's not trying to foul people. He's not trying to get all the blocks. So, but yeah, I mean, even in this game, we barely had a free throw discrepancy. Barely. I think we had like 19 to their 16, and we still by 8 points, right? Because Braden and Fletch went off. Like we cracked the curse with the Wilson basketball all of a sudden. Like, so I don't know what, like this team is a Final Four caliber team. Like I'm not afraid to say it. I'm not going to jinx it. Yes, you still have to get it done in March. Arizona is also a Final Four caliber team. Like it's one thing to be of that caliber and actually make the run. I get that, but enjoy this, Purdue fans. Like enjoy what you're seeing. Even Big Ten fans. This is the first team in the Big Ten history to be number 1 3 years in a row. Like enjoy it. It's okay to enjoy the regular season. It's okay to enjoy beating the number 1 team. Like have fun. That's all I gotta say. I guess I'll let somebody else talk now.
Have fun, and I told these guys I would say it. Have fun, and when your team plays them, just die, but do it enjoyably, I guess, because that's what Purdue's going to do to pretty much every single team they face. Now, Northwestern got them because Boo Buie did what Boo Buie does and just went off. Massive credit to Boo Buie for doing that. But at the end of the day, Purdue's not going to lose more than 2 or 3 games in the Big Ten, maybe 4 this season, because that's just who they are. And when your team plays them, you're probably going to lose, and it's okay. It's okay to say that. As an Ohio State fan, I don't ever want to see my team lose, but I know when we play them, if we play them close, that's what I can take away from that. But Dakota, I'll let you get back to the game. What were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think Russ got to hit the whole thing on the head. I mean, this is the perfect example of why we need to be enjoying this. I mean, Purdue's won 33 regular season non-conference games in a row, including basically any high major team you want to list them. I mean, Purdue's probably beaten them. I remember social media can be a little frustrating sometimes. I remember putting out a tweet before the game saying that this is kind of the perfect scenario for this Purdue team right now. You're facing an Arizona team that was number one in the country, playing very, very well, destroying teams, but maybe hadn't been tested quite to the level that Purdue had. And I said that going into this game, it was effectively a win-win, because if you lose to Arizona, it's never going to be a bad loss. And if you win, it's essentially gravy. And I had a lot of people come to me saying like, oh, loser talk, yada, yada, yada. But I think I just look at it as you just have to enjoy these moments. I mean, Purdue is playing probably the best basketball that I've ever seen played in the college game, just based on the balance that they have. I mean, you saw it exactly in this game. And obviously, Fletcher Loyer, got to talk about him. Braden Smith, can't leave him out either. Zach Edey probably has, if you can call it, a very low-key, ho-hum 22-9 type of game. But I think what you saw the most in this game is exactly what Purdue needs to do going forward. I don't think they were force-feeding Zach, because that's not what Arizona was giving them. But at the same time, as the game progresses, you see the way Purdue run offense kind of shift and change. Fletcher starts hitting, and then all of a sudden you have two guys following him off a screen, which leaves a Braden Smith wide open, or provides a passing lane into Zach Edey, who Arizona thankfully was playing him sort of a semi one-on-one down in the low post, and so he was able to feast and get his. I'm so happy that we got a good Fletcher Loyer game. I mean, it just seems like every once in a while in these big games, he'll come out and give you 27, 4 steals, and just showed up everywhere. And it's just massive. And then obviously Braden Smith, I feel like you're jumping around all over the place, but that's just kind of what this game was for everyone. Braden, obviously killer, murderers in this pick and roll game that he's running with Zach Edey, because Arizona, I mentioned it before the game started, that Arizona plays one of the deepest, hardest drops in that pick and roll coverage. And so I said he might go for 30 just based on that, because he's going to get to that 15-foot pull-up that he hits. It feels like 100% of the time. It feels like it's almost automatic. And it's just, I mean, what do you do? I mean, you have Fletcher Loyer hitting 3 after 3. Arizona tries to throw Purdue off by doubling Zach off the strong side. Immediate kick back out for another 3. You have Trey Kaufman-Renn, who I want to give a huge shout out. May not have showed up big in the box score, but it's that first 8-minute stint, which I have to tangent briefly, which is probably one of the most beautiful 8-minute stints in basketball I think I've ever seen. Came up huge in that first stint. You saw Mason Gillis do Mason Gillis things. Even Caleb First came in and made Sean Johnson's life a little harder down the stretch when he was going off in the first half. I mean, you just look at this Purdue team and you look around and say, yeah, they had 3 guys do all the scoring, but at the same time, that's all you needed in this one. And all the other guys did exactly what they needed to do to get this win. It was one of the most fun basketball games I think I've ever seen, and the fact that Purdue was in it and came out on top is just icing on the cake for me.
Well, and one of the reasons why guys like Braden Smith and Fletcher Loyer were able to play so well is because you got point guard Zach Edey in this game, led the team in assists. I mean, Zach Edey, he is smarter this year than he was last year. And that's not to say he wasn't smart last year, because he was really smart last year too. But this year, he sees the double coming. He sees where his guys are spotted up, ready to shoot. And his guys aren't just shooting this year too. When he passes, they're making a play. They're dribble driving. They're kicking to somebody else. They're getting other people involved. I think Lance Jones could have had a much bigger game. He was 1 for 6 from 3, so he could have had a bigger game there. But I mean, how much can you really complain? Because you had Braden Smith and Fletcher Loyer both almost get 30. So at the end of the day, like, this wasn't the story of Braden Smith went off. This wasn't the story of Zach Edey, was just too much to handle. This was the story of Purdue put together a complete game. Maybe would have liked to see a little bit more on defense, but they were still very, very good on defense. I mean, this is an outstanding Arizona offense that they were trying to stop. So we got to give credit there as well. But at least offensively, I don't know if you're going to see a better offensive performance in the regular season in college basketball this year. Russ, am I right there? Am I wrong? What are your thoughts?
Well, that brought up one other point that I heard going around a little bit. I think I won't mention the name, but I already started to. There's another pod that loves to.
Nobody knows what pod you're talking about when you talk about Fields.
There's some people that throw out some Purdue hate still, even after a game like that, and they want to say, well, Purdue had to play a perfect game to be able to beat Arizona. We went like 6+ minutes without a field goal in the second half.
8+ minutes.
8+, yeah.
After they took off the basket interference.
Yeah, it was an 11 to -2 run, basically, right? Like, because we like literally lost 2 points during that run that they gave us. But like, we literally went almost half the second half without hitting a field goal, and we still won this game by 8 points. Like, comfortably won this game. So, yes, Purdue put together a masterful 30 out of 40 minutes, but we still won even without putting a full 40 minutes together, in my opinion.
I agree. What were your thoughts, Dakota?
Yeah, I mean, just building off that exact point, I mean, how are you going to have a game where you score 92 points, but you go 8 minutes without a field goal? And I think that just plays into exactly one of my favorite quotes from Fletcher Loyer after that game, which you look at that game and that box score and you say, man, Purdue played very, very well. But even I agree entirely with Fletcher Loyer when he said that Purdue still hasn't played their best basketball yet this year. Exactly because those three guys go off, but then you look down the list, you see Lance Jones go 1 for 6. You see Trey Kaufman-Rent have a very solid, quiet night. You see Mason Gillis kind of really struggle to get going. Miles Colvin and Camden Heide really didn't make much of an impact like many of us hoped they would. And so I still think that there's a long way for this Purdue team to go. And I think that's a very scary thought for both the Big Ten and the rest of the country.
Yeah, and another guy I have to give credit for because I don't know, and I think you said it earlier, Dakota. Trey Kaufman, Ron. I mean, the dude, he doesn't show up on the stat sheet every single game, but the impact he has in this game, energy-wise, I think just like other guys building off what he does the little things here and there that you need him to do. And Purdue needs a guy like that. Lance Jones, he kind of does that as well. I mean, he still got 9 last night, even when he went 1 for 6, we said, from 3. So he does that really, really well. But Kaufman-Rent, I really like this kid. He's probably never going to be a star in college basketball if I had to bet, but he's a really, really good role player who it doesn't show up on the box score, but he does what needs to be done. So any more thoughts on this game before we move on, guys?
I mean, what more can you really say?
You want to sing their praises one more time?
I mean, let me wax poetic about Purdue here. No, I mean, honestly, this was one of the most fun basketball games I think I might have ever seen. I think the ref show did kind of get a little iffy there towards the end, but I thought that actually officiating in this game was very well. I think both teams I said this multiple times during the game too, that we were definitely watching two of the 3 best teams in college basketball play go at it against each other. And I have nothing but good things to say about Arizona. Most of their fans are okay. At least they took it better than some. But I mean, Caleb Love going off for 24. Keshawn Johnson was amazing, 24 points. I mean, even Ballo ended up with his 13. I mean, this is what college basketball is all about, and I would take this 100 times out of 100 and over like the Purdue Tennessee game. It's just the night and day difference, and that's what college basketball is all about.
Yeah, and shout out to the team. Shout out to the team down south, because had they not ruined the Crossroad Classics, this game would have never happened. So thank you all. Thank you. Gotta give them their props when they deserve it. They said we're too good for this. We got to go to Kansas and lose. We got to play Arizona and lose. We got to play Kansas at home and lose. And you know what? Purdue will take that Arizona spot in Indy, and we'll take that dub.
Thanks for listening to the Big Ten Huddle. Please do like and subscribe. We appreciate that. If this was your first time listening, we are the Big Ten Huddle. We cover all things Big Ten football and basketball. We have a long episode every Sunday, Tuesday, and Wednesday night, all at 9 o'clock. So come in, check us out, get in the chat, let us know what you're thinking. We would love to have you join us and learn more about the Big Ten.